Chapter 19, The Silver Doe. Harry and Hermione were still out in the woods. Snow was heavy on the ground, and as they were switching, taking watch, Harry was having dreams, of his encounters that he's had, especially with Nagini. And so he woke up and kind of switched watch with Hermione, and she was out there just reading a book, trying to stay awake. They have both not been getting a lot of sleep because they were trying to stay on alert because of what they just encountered. And they moved to a new location, which was an area that Hermione had gone camping with her parents. And they wanted to be in a little more sheltered area so they weren't as cold and they could like hunker down for a little bit. And then as Hermione is sleeping, so Harry's up and he's trying to stay awake. He's nodding off a little bit, and he's thinking about, what he's gone through so far, and thinking about Ginny as well, and thought about pulling out the Marauders map to go see what she's doing. But then it's Christmas break, so he's like, oh yeah, she's not going to be home. Or no, she's going to be home, not at Hogwarts. And at this point, he's kind of slipping in and out in between, really just falling asleep. And then he sees a white doe in the woods, and he doesn't really think he sees it at first. Then it gets closer to him. It's just like a pure white doe. Looks like a Patronus, and it's just walking towards him. And so, Harry does what he does best. He goes right after it. Doesn't even think twice. Well, he takes a second to think about, maybe I shouldn't leave this. Maybe it's a trap. But then he runs after the doe, and the doe starts walking away. He follows it, and it comes out to like a little pond that's frozen over. And when he looks down in the pond, he sees none other than the sword of Gryffindor at the bottom of this pond. And he's like, wait a minute, that's where it was this whole time? And he's like, that can't be. Then he realizes what he needs to do, and he's got to get in this very cold pond and swim down there and get the sword. So he takes off all his clothes, and he's really not wanting to do this because it's very cold. And once he gets in the water, he almost jumps right back out. His body's like fighting him. He's like, no. But he gets right in there, and then he's like, I gotta dive and get this because it's pretty deep down there. So he goes down there, dives, gets it. And the second he touches the sword, he left the locket on his neck. That was the only thing he had on other than underwear. And the locket just like strangles him. Like at this point, like he's thrashing and everything, trying to get out of the water. And then the locket is like choking him. It's like getting closer. It reacted to the sword. And then next thing you know, he wakes up back on the snow. And he's wondering how he got there. He's kind of delirious a little bit. And then he looks over and he sees Ron. Ron is holding the sword and has pulled him out of the water, saved his life, and he cut the necklace off of Harry. And he was like, first thing he says to Harry is like, are you mad? Like, you went in there and you should have taken off the necklace first. And Harry doesn't have really time to process this. He's like, wait a second, Ron? And then they didn't really Harry doesn't really ask the question he wants to ask, like, how are you here? He almost believes that Ron is not real at first, and then he's like, let's get down to business, basically, and let's destroy this Horcrux. And since he's got the sword of Gryffindor and they're both wet, Harry starts putting his clothes back on, and then they put the locket down, and Harry's like, Ron, you've got to be the one to do this, because the sword obviously came to you, and you've got to be the one to do it. So Harry said, I'm going to open the locket, and you're going to stab it. And Ron's like, how are you going to open these? I'm going to use Parseltongue. And then so he uses Parseltongue, and it opens. And then right immediately when it opens, you just hear a voice, and it's just basically talking to Ron. And biggest insults just come flying out at Ron. Like, you're not worthy. Like, everything that you can think of. Basically said your mother wanted a son. I mean, your mother wanted a daughter instead of a son. She didn't want you. Harry and Hermione were fine without you. And it's just everything. Like, Tom Riddle's voice is coming out, just bashing Ron. And Ron is taking the brunt of it. You know how Ron is, when he's not really confident. He already says before they even start, like, Harry, I can't do this. I can't do this. Like, he's already psyching himself down. And Harry's like, Ron, you can do it. And Harry is just screaming, Ron, you got to stab it. You got to stab it. And then, like, this dark Harry and Hermione come out of the locket, kind of like in a little image in the locket. It starts like bubbling, and like this image of them comes out. So now it's Harry and Hermione just basically bashing him. Hermione says, I've always wanted Harry, and then you're like basically calling him, he's dumb, he doesn't do anything. And Harry's like, the real Harry's obviously screaming in the background, just stab it. And he just can't stop listening to what the locket is saying. And then the Hermione's like, you couldn't stand up to the chosen one, all that stuff, just bashing Ron. And then they start making out. The evil Harry and evil Hermione start making out, and at that point, that's when Ron comes in and stabs it, and then it starts screaming. And then it just stops. Like, the locket breaks, and they have, destroyed the Horcrux. And at this point, that's when they talk about like how he got there. Harry asked Ron like how he got here. He said he followed. He saw the doe and saw Harry following it. So then he followed Harry. By the time he got to the pond, he saw Harry got in the water and saw he wasn't coming back up. So he jumped in the water to get him. And then they were like, it's obviously a Patronus, but then he said it like maybe there was a clearing over there, but there was no one around. Harry kept checking for anyone around beforehand he jumped in the water, and they never saw anyone around. But the doe was obviously seemed like a Patronus. So then as they're walking back, Harry's very excited to tell Hermione the news. So they walk in, Harry wakes up Hermione, and then he just kind of fizzles into the background and figuratively grabs like a bucket of popcorn and just enjoys the fireworks, because the minute Hermione sees Ron, it is on sight. She starts punching him, hitting him, insulting him, everything she can think of. And Ron obviously is taken aback, because he says he's sorry, and Hermione's like, oh, that's all you can say is you're sorry. And even Harry had to cast a Protego charm in between them, so Hermione didn't want to hurt them, because Hermione wanted her wand too. And she yelled at Harry, and it's like, she used his full government name and everything. Obviously a great moment, to be honest. Just the most mad you've ever seen Hermione. And as they get calmed down a little bit, Ron explains his side of what he was doing while they were Harry and Hermione were together. And so he explained right after he left, he wanted to come back. He regretted leaving the whole time, and he wanted to come back, but he ran into some snatchers, which is people that attack Muggle-born or possible Muggle-born people and try to take what they have. So then he got attacked. He broke free, took one of their wands and his own wand, and apparated away. And when he was like lonely one night, he used this Deluminator that he got from Dumbledore, and it opened up, and he heard Hermione's voice. And this was probably the moment where Harry and Hermione had said his name when they were talking about him. And the light went inside Ron, and he knew what he had to do. So then he kind of followed their path and ended up there on that night. And obviously, crazy to believe, but it was meant to be. That Ron was there at that exact moment, because he saved Harry's life. And deep down you could tell, obviously Harry was ecstatic that Ron was back, and Hermione, you could tell she was happy he was back too, and they went back to sleep.